Hi you guys, I'm so excited that you joined me today. Welcome to my little paintbrush. Today we are going to pay tribute to Harry Potter and I'm excited. We are going to be painting Hedwig wearing the Sorting Hat. So get ready to have some fun. Remember, you can switch up these colors. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. Make it your own. Also, don't forget that you can pause this video if I'm going too fast for you. That's okay. That's the beauty of painting at home. You can pause, rewind, all the things, okay? Let's dive right in and get started. I'm gonna grab a nice flat brush and I'm gonna get it wet in some clean water, loosen up those bristles. And here is our fun palette today. It's Screaming Harry Potter. I love it. We're gonna take some red and make a really kind of deep maroon color here. So I'm going to pull in some of this brown and mix it in until I'm happy with the color. Again, you can do something different, but I really liked this deep maroon for the background. Once you have the color that you like, and I don't worry about a perfect mix because if your brush kind of offloads streaky, that's kind of fun sometimes anyway, so I don't worry too much about that. Once you have the color you want, though, we're going to start to fill in our background. And depending on the color you chose, the paints you're using, the consistency of your paint, these darker colors sometimes need multiple coats of paint. So if that's the case for you, don't worry too much about that. We can go through and do another coat, which I'm probably going to end up doing anyway, so that's okay. All right, if you're painting on a wrapped canvas, I highly encourage you to do the edges and wrap around just to have a nice finished piece. I think it's really important, especially, you know, if you're going to display it, to have those edges nice and finished as well. So go ahead and do that as you go. This color is beautiful. I love it so much. Come around to this hat here. And honestly, if you get some into your owl or your sorting hat, don't worry too much about that. Just kind of keep going and we can reference back to it if we need to. We can go back and we can fix some of that up. For now, just do your best at getting that main layer of paint on. And flip your canvas however you need as well. You don't have to keep it necessarily in this position the whole time. You can flip it to the side, you can flip it upside down, whatever works for you. In fact, if I was not dealing with the cameras, I would be flipping it around a lot. So I continue to add water to my paint anytime it starts to feel thick and kind of sticky. I will add water to it to loosen it up. Acrylic paint does need water, okay? So the surface I'm using is drying pretty quick and all these bright lights in my studio, so I can go ahead now and do the second layer that I was talking about. That's probably not going to be the case for you. You will have to wait for it to dry. Just keep in mind that you want it to be dry, really close to all the way dry before you do another layer, because if not, you'll start to pick up paint instead of lay it down if we go over it when it's at that kind of sticky phase of drying. So just keep that in mind so that you don't frustrate yourself trying to get that second layer in. Okay, so come around here, get all that filled in. Again, it just, because we didn't use any white with the background, we may have to do those multiple layers. All right, I'm going to wash my brush and let my background dry Wash it really good and just set it aside. Okay, now I'm going to switch to a filbert. A filbert looks similar to a flat, but the top is kind of rounded. And I really like this brush for this piece, but if you don't have this and you have a smaller flat or even a round, go ahead and use that. But for me, I'm gonna stick with my filbert. I'm gonna get it in some water here, and we're gonna move to our sorting hat. So what I'm gonna do is scoop up some of my black, come over here to my reddish brown color, and start to mix that in. And I'm going to get this nice, dark, rich brown, okay? And that's going to be the under, like the inside of my hat, okay? I'm just going to start to fill that in. Again, wrap your canvas as you go so that you don't have to go back and recreate all of these colors. They could be already done for you. That's always tricky to try and mix a color exactly like one you've already made. So kind of wrap it as you go. I'll come up here around this cute ear. I love that this owl has those big eyes and big features. It doesn't look exactly like Hedwig, but we stuck to Hedwig's coloring, and I just kind of love how playful it is. All right, so that's inside of the hat. And before we move on, I'm just going to put some black on a corner of my brush, and I want to get a nice shadow effect going here. And around. It'll be kind of tricky to see at first, but as it dries, you'll notice just this dark hue coming underneath the hat, and it'll be super, super cool. So sometimes there's a step that we think, oh, that's not really necessary, and so kind of want to skip it. And you know what? It's your painting. You can skip what you want, but these little touches, they do make a big difference in the end. So maybe take the time to kind of put these in. I'm going to pull that shadow all the way down the ear and kind of around the eye, and then you can kind of just blend it in a little bit, just like that. Okay, and then that will begin to dry, and we're just cruising along here. Now we're going to go up into the hat. We're going to play with those same colors, but I want to use much more brown now. I want to keep that dark in there. It'll really help with coverage. However, I don't want it as dark as the inside of the hat. We want to have a difference there, okay? So I'll mix that in, and then we'll go ahead and start to fill this in. Now this hat is going to need multiple layers, at least 2. That's just something you deal with a lot with brown, I feel like. So don't worry too much if you're painting along and you think, oh, it's not covering well. Just remember, you can go in with another layer. Just depends on the type of paint you're using too. So keep that in mind. Now as my paint dries, I will dip my brush in water and mix it because it gets sticky. It needs that water. I tell the kids in art class all the time that your paint does get thirsty, so make sure you're giving it a good drink throughout your painting. And come around. We're doing our best to stay within our lines, of course. We don't want to veer too far off, but if we do a little bit here and there, again, don't spend your time concerned about that right now. Just keep painting and let things kind of work themselves out, because they will. We have a lot of cleanup work we can do towards the end of the painting, so just enjoy it. I like this filbert because I can get lots of different sizes of brush strokes. But again, you can do this with a flat and switch to the toe of the brush to get into smaller areas and such. So you don't have to have a filbert. It's just a really fun, it's a fun brush to have if you want to try a new brush out. I would recommend getting a filbert. It's a fun one to have. So I'm going around the markings on the hat, sort of the eyes and the mouth of our sorting hat. I'm going around it because it's so iconic that I want to get it right. I want it to look like it's the sorting hat. So I'm taking my time to paint around it. If you feel pretty confident in like just freehanding this in here, you can do that as well. Nobody will fault you for that, but I'm going to go around it so that when I'm ready to do my black, fill it in with black, I'm confident in that. Again, wrapping it as you go. So as you come around the top of the hat, that would be a good time to wrap around the top of your canvas. Okay, so our hat is in. We're going to go ahead and let that dry. I'm going to wash my brush again. I'm going to continue to use my filbert, really liking it. So Hedwig is white, but we want to add some dimension to our owl. So we're going to do that by painting a nice gray in at the base of the owl. So I'm going to get just a little bit of black. You don't need a lot. It doesn't take much. And I'm going to mix it with white. And all you're going for here is a good contrast between this color and your white, so that when you go to put those white feather marks in, you can see them. Okay, so now I'm just going to fill the body in here. And again, you can see that it kind of offloads some darker streaks of gray here and there. And that's just because I didn't take the time to really mix my color thoroughly, because it's not a huge deal. You're going to be covering this up, and a little dimension is fine with those values. So now we're going to clean up our edge here. If you've got any of your background in your owl, this is a good time to clean it up. And that's why I said don't stress about it, in the moment. Just be patient with yourself, because it will eventually come together. We always stress in the beginning steps of our art, and then by the end we realize that, oh, I didn't need to stress about that. We all do it though. Okay, so we're going to leave the big eyes white, but I am going to come up to my ear and forehead area and fill it in as well. Okay, so get a nice clean edge going here. Got this fun ear. Go around these eyes. Again, we'll have some opportunity to do some more cleanup work towards the end of our painting. So just get these colors on and worry about all of that when the time comes. These two eyes here. Awesome. Okay. Now I'm gonna wash again. How are we doing? If I'm going fast for you, remember what I said at the beginning. There's no shame in pausing or rewinding this video, okay? Let's go ahead and put the yellow in our eyes. I've got this nice bright yellow. I want to tone it down a bit with some white. Okay, so I'm just gonna mix a little bit of white in there. But Hedwig has those beautiful yellow eyes, and so we're gonna play off of, like I said, Hedwig's coloring. And so we're just gonna fill in these eyes here with this nice yellow. All the way around. Just fill that in. Love the contrast that happens in this painting when you have this cool gray color and then these warm yellow eyes. I think it's awesome. Okay, so we're just gonna fill those in. Come over to my other eye and do the same. Circles are tricky. That's why I've got mine traced in for me. It's easy to follow when it's on there. But if you're doing this freehand, just keep in mind, start small. You can add, but it's a lot harder to take away. So start with a small circle. Also, if you're not using our paint kit, you can use our pattern. Those patterns are on our website. Okay, so now before I wash the yellow out of my brush, I'm gonna put some white on a corner of it. So just a nice chunk of white there. And then I'm just gonna kind of go around the inner portion of the eye, just to kind of give this nice highlight or reflection of light. Got a little too much paint. I'm gonna pick some of that up with my finger. Fingers are great tools when painting. I use my fingers all the time. So I'm just gonna do like a moon shape, okay? I'm gonna do the same thing here, but just in the opposite. So I'm not gonna go on the same side. So just kind of a nice moon shape reflection in the eye there. And that will make a really big difference once we get those black circles in there. It'll just brighten it up. Okay, we're making some good progress. I'm gonna wash out my brush. I'm gonna go back to my sorting hat and put another layer of my lighter brown in my hat here. Oh dear. Got a little too excited there. Got a drip. Sometimes I really load my brush and then realize after that I went a little too crazy. So let's get that second layer in. You'll notice right away that it cleans it up a lot. Okay, and again, it's just understanding that your painting needs time to become what you're wanting it to become. It's not going to look right after step 1 or even step 2. Okay, but as you stick to it, it really starts to reveal itself, which I love. I love to just watch it kind of come together. And I feel like there are certain steps that it just happens. Those are my favorite. All right, let's go up in here. Again, I'm kind of working around my design, my face design in this hat. If I get a little bit of brown in my outline though, it's really okay, especially with this, because the mouth and the eyes on our hat are going to be black, and so it's not a big deal at all. Cover it right up. All right, just about done here. We'll come up around here. Looking pretty fantastic. You can really see now the contrast between underneath our hat and the inside and the outside of it. Okay, so now before I move on, I'm going to do some shadowing and some little crease marks and lines inside the hat. So this is a lot of fun to do. I'm going to make sure my paint is nice and loose, and just like we did on the yellow eyes, I'm going to take my brown and dip a corner in black, okay? And I'm going to use that corner to start going around my entire hat. So I'm going to come up here and start to put this in. Now if you have too much brown on your brush, which I did right there, you won't be able to see it much. So I'm going to come back to that spot. I'm going to let it dry, but right here you can see we're going to just put in this shadow. You can even come underneath that little section. Anytime you feel like the black is overpowering, just put some brown on your brush, and see there you can just kind of blend that in a little bit like that. Okay, so you're just going to do this all around the hat here. This is kind of like you're outlining it, but you're doing it in such a way that it's not this really stiff line. It's this nice faded shadow look that we love so much. But if you're having a hard time with it, you can certainly outline it, especially if you're a younger artist attempting this piece. Sometimes it's better to just do the outline and practice this technique, you know, another time. It's all about practice as well. So again, you can come along here and kind of blend it in a little bit if you feel like it's coming on too strong. But I think it's looking pretty good. I'm just going to continue to go here. Come up through this side. Same thing. I'm going to come underneath the mouthpiece a little bit with a little shadow. Really anywhere that you want. And you have to remember that. It's so important as you're painting to not feel like it has to be, you know, exactly like mine. And if you're painting along and you feel that you don't like something a certain way, you need to change it. You need to do it the way that you want to do it. Otherwise, you'll just be disappointed with it. You know, it's not my painting, it's yours when you are creating it. So stay true to who you are. All right, so now we have the basic lines done around our hat. Okay, now we're going to add some fun additional, like I said, little creases in our hat. I'm going to make sure my paint's loose with some water, and then I'm going to continue up here. We're going to come along here and we're going to dip it like this and do kind of this little crease here. Okay. You can see I kind of go over it lightly at first, And then when I feel like it's where I want it to be, I'll go back and do another layer. And that's kind of my rule of thumb, is to just start light and then go back. So I'm going to do a little there. All right there, and we're just building this hat. You can see as we build it, it starts to really come alive. And that's what I was saying before is, you know, we put those first few layers in our painting and we often just think, oh, this is terrible, you know. But you got to get those details in it before you start to judge it too much. Oh, and we're going to do this edge again, huh? Kind of going off of my clip up there. Okay, but you can see now we're starting to see our hat. Okay, so that's awesome. I'm going to rinse out my brush and I'm going to go to my black paint now, and with my filbert I'm going to fill in all of these features on the sorting hat that I can, until I need to switch to my detail brush to get the smaller areas. But I like to get everything I can with a bigger brush for several reasons. It keeps your detail brush a little bit more safe and it lasts longer. But also I don't like a ton of brush strokes, and so if I fill it in with a bigger brush, it will eliminate all the little strokes that I would get from a little brush. Okay, so I'm just gonna, again, do what I can here, fill in what I can, and leave what I am a little uncomfortable doing with this brush. I'll leave it and switch to a detail here in a minute. Just got some fun features. This hat, when you see it, you know where it came from. Okay, I'm gonna pop that in the water for a second. I'm gonna switch to my detail, so that's just the smallest brush you have. This is the brush you would use for any line work that you do. I'm gonna loosen up my bristles with some water and my black paint. Okay, and then I'm gonna come in and get all those areas I was a little bit more nervous about getting. Make sure that I have all those sharp edges the way that I want it. Try to breathe when you do it. I tend to hold my breath when I'm painting in smaller areas. Don't forget to breathe. All right, come over here and do this part. Come around with that nice, sharp, iconic mouth in, just like this. Come around here and finish off those lips there. All right, now at this point, if you choose, you can kind of outline your hat, just depending on if you feel like it needs some of that cleanup work, especially in areas like right there that are kind of leaving some white behind. I'm just gonna run my brush over it real quick, but it really isn't a have-to thing. It's just if you feel like your edges could use a little cleanup, then go ahead and do it. Otherwise, you're done with your sorting hat for now. We just have some highlights to do. Isn't it fun? It just so fun. I'm in love with this piece. Okay, awesome. Okay, well, we have our little brush and black paint. Let's just go ahead and fill in our little beak. Okay, just cute little beak here. Fill that in just like so. And there we go, guys. We are cruising along. I'm gonna rinse that brush out, set it aside, and go back to my filbert that I love so much. And we're gonna do a nice shadow now in our white part of the eye. So if you want to, you can go ahead and just load with some white paint. It's got some gray in my bristles still, it looks like. And you can just kind of wet your surface a little bit before you go into those edges. Sometimes you just need a little bit of paint on your surface before you get started. And then once you are all set, we're going to actually put black on the corner of our brush. If that makes you nervous, you can go with gray. I'm going to do black though. I really want a nice strong kind of outline going around my eye. So I'm going to go for the black. Okay, and I'm going to start right here and just pull it around. Okay. Same thing over here. Pull that around. And they meet in this deep V right here, just like that, okay? So I'm going to continue to use my water. That's really a good tip to make sure that you're getting a nice smooth line, is to make sure that you're using your water. And you don't have to do the full circle at once. Notice how I kind of break it up in sections. I want it to look cohesive, but trying to do the full circle in one hit would be quite difficult. So don't put that pressure on yourself to do it, and just do them in little sections. And also keep in mind that we're going to clean up these edges too. We're going to do a little bit of an outline on our eyes to help them pop. And so don't have to be stressed about like a very perfect clean edge right now. We'll come back and we'll work on that. All right, almost done with our eyes. Come around this side. Need a little more water. You can tell if your stroke is breaking on you. That's typically a water problem. So make sure you use your water. Like right in there, I can tell I need some more paint or some more water on my brush. So just look for that to help indicate. And I like to tell people that your paint should be the consistency of melted ice cream when you paint, unless you're dry brushing or something like that. You really want to go for a nice thin paint. And kind of step back and see if you're happy with your eyes. I am. I think they're great. Okay, now I am going to rinse out this brush really quick, and I'm going to do a little highlight, well, first let's put our black part in our eyes. Let's do that. So wherever you put this portion of the owl's eyes is where the owl is looking. I'm going to put mine front and center. You can do yours off to the side, cross side, down, up, whatever you want. But now we can talk about that circle tip I gave you earlier about starting small and then building on it. See, I just started small, and now I can kind of choose how big I go with the eye. But again, circles do tend to grow because we keep wanting them to be perfect. And we're just not going to get a perfect circle hand painted. It's always going to be off a little bit. So you got to be kind to yourself. I remind myself of that every time I paint a circle. Trust me, I'm very OCD about it. Okay, so there's one of our eyes. We'll go ahead and put the other one in. Again, I'll start a little bit smaller, and then I'll build upon that and try and keep them similar in size, because they are all in the same owl here. But if you go a little bit bigger on one, you can add to the other one until they match a little better. But more than anything, just do your best. And if you want to trace them in first, maybe you have a lid the perfect size or something, you can go ahead and use that to put your eye in to get that perfect circle that you want. This one is just going to keep growing now. I gotta stop eventually. All right, so we've got our eyes in. Before I move on, I'm going to put some white on that brush covered in black paint. Okay, and I'm going to put in a highlight sort of in the same area that I've put the highlight in the yellow. So same direction and all that. Okay, make this one a little stronger. The black really will hide that highlight pretty quick, so you can do it twice if you need to put it in there. And then before I wash my brush, I'll put a little highlight on the nose. So this is just coming along. We are just about done. You'll be surprised at how quickly we put in these feathers on our owl. But before I do that, I'm going to go back to that gray, and I just want to put a little black on the corner of my brush, and I want to separate the body and the arms. Okay, this will just help me as I put in my feathers, give me a sense of where I'm at. Okay, so I'm just going to put in that little mark that says, okay, body versus arms. And I like to shadow this part of the ear as well. So come up here and just make sure that's got a nice shadow. And really, if you want to, you can go all the way across the hat and just kind of blend in a little bit of a darker gray right there. It's just pretty slight though, because I'm going to leave room for my white feathers. So, okay, good rinse on the brush. as we go in to do our white. So we're going to use the toe of my filbert. So if you have a round, you can do this with a round, it's just fine. If you have a flat, just use the toe too. So that means you're facing the brush like this versus here. You're going flat in, okay? So I'm going to put some white on my brush, make sure it's nice and clean. I've used a lot of white, so I might just move some over to a clean spot, okay? And I'm going to just start to use that toe and shape in some feathers. I'm going to move to one side, then straighten, and then move and curve to the other side. See how we're doing? So come this, curve this side, then when we get to the middle, we go straight down, then we curve the other direction, okay? So pretty simple, it goes in fast, and then you can come through with maybe load a little thicker, okay? So you can have some really thick ones as well. Remember, our cute little Hedwig is a white owl, so we really want to showcase white versus gray, okay? So we get those strokes in, and then you come over to the arms, and you're just going to do one coming down the arm, just kind of curve it in, okay? And then we'll come up to our ear, and we're going to go around on both sides here, and then we're going to come in like that, okay? Really just simple strokes. Don't think too much about these, you guys. This one I want to bring all the way down. I don't want to, you almost just do like a little couple eyebrow strokes is all you do right there, okay? But just bring those in. You don't want to fill it all in. You don't want it to look like you've painted it white. You want to see that gray contrast in the back. Awesome, that's it. That's it on your feathers, you guys. Swish out your brush, okay? Then we're just gonna have a clean brush that's damp. We're gonna put a little bit of white on an edge, and we're gonna highlight in our hat now that it's nice and dry. I'm gonna come up in here. I'm just gonna pick little spots that I really want to showcase what's happening, because our hat is fairly dark. All the colors in here are fairly dark, and so I want to really show it off a little bit. And you can't really do that unless you come in with some white and help it pop, okay? So that's what we're going to do here. We're just going to help our hat pop a little bit. Just again, a damp brush with a little bit of white on the edge, okay? Just like that. So you see just that little bit really helps it pop. Okay guys, home stretch. Back to my detail brush. I'm loading it with black paint. I'm making sure there's water in there so that it's thinned out. And up here we're going to give this little mark in the nose, okay? The nose area of our hat. We want to define. This is a very iconic little swirl that you have there. Okay, now we're going to put an outline around our big eyes. Like I had said, we're going to do some cleanup work, right? So we're going to come around here. We really want these eyes to pop. So we're going to do just up there in the top portion of the eye, and then we're going to come down and do the base. Notice I don't do the whole eye. And there's a reason for that. It's less pressure on yourself. If you want to do the whole eye, you do it. I'm just going to outline portions, okay? Because I know I can do these little portions and still get a good pop, okay? I can still show off my eyes and the different features that I want to show off without the pressure of doing the whole thing, okay? Now we're going to do an outline on the yellow eye, but we're only going to do half, so we're going to come up and around here like that, and then we'll come down like that, okay? We'll do it on both eyes. Again, eliminating the pressure of a full outline, but allowing these features to be showcased and not forgotten here, okay? So just like that. Now I'm going to come down and outline my arms, cute little owl arms, and the body. You can see right away it just all takes shape, okay? And then you don't have to worry about all that cleanup work. And look at this piece, it's amazing. Okay, I'm going to grab my flat brush again, dip the bottom of it in clean white paint, and give my owl some reflections in the eye. I'm going to do a nice big twirl at the bottom of my brush for a nice big one, and then just a little dot right there. Same thing over here. Oops, this is got a little slant in my paper there, a nice big one, and then just a little dot underneath. That brush is giving me a hard time with a dot, so I'm going to switch to a different one. Okay. Looking fabulous. Those highlights really help. Now we're going to add a little bit to our background now that it's dry. I'm going to load my flat up with my background color. I want to put some white on that brush, and then I just want to add some white streaky strokes close to my owl. And what this does is it just adds dimension to your painting, but it also says, hey, look, the star of the show is this awesome owl wearing this sorting hat. So we take this light portion and we draw everybody's eye to our subject matter. Okay, and I'm careful not to get too pink with it, you know, because red and white you're going to get pink, and I want that deep color, but I want that dimension at the same time. So I'm gonna add it again. That white portion of my brush is towards the owl on the hat. As I go around it, it's facing my subject matter. And it doesn't have to be the same on all sides. You're just saying, again, look at me. Okay, time to sign our name, you guys. Can you believe that you just painted this owl? I hope you're proud of it. I would love to see them. So if you want to share them with me, you can tag us on social media. Be sure to always sign your name. It is an indication that you are proud of your work, and you should be. No matter what stage of creating you are in, always be proud of your creations because they're your very own. Thank you for joining me. If you love this painting, if you love our tutorials, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We do drop new content all the time. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you next time.